And we are now officially joined here by Shawn Burke, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. And we appreciate you stopping on by here this morning inside the game.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Well, we appreciate you stopping on by. We've had a chance to really talk with a number of really great coaches here across the country here over the last couple of weeks, and we continue here today with you. One of the first questions I have for you is, we talk about this a lot, consistency. It is very difficult to maintain, especially in today's climate, a consistently strong program that on the field produces wins and has a chance to fight for a championship. So what has been your recipe there in Buffalo?
I think we still recruit the very traditional way. With this year we have 9 freshmen. We got 8 freshmen coming in next year, and we try to use the transfer portal for 1, maybe 2 players that can come in and step in immediately. We're not really looking to add depth through the portal. It's very much a reality of college athletics now. So we obviously there's very talented players, and I mean, listen, we have a 25-year-old center back right now who's a grad student from St. John's, and I mean, just her age, her maturity, her skill level. I think she's brought our program to a different level. So that's how we try to utilize the transfer portal. But ultimately, I think you get the consistency because you get players in your program. They understand the system, they understand you, and you can still build a team in the very traditional sense.
No, and that, I mean, that obviously is something that we talk a lot about, especially in today's climate. Again, the dynamics at work when it comes to the transfer portal and recruitment and things like that, and ultimately, when you say the other part of this too is coaches staying at a program for a long period of time, right? Traditionally, in the mid-major world, coaches are using that as a stepping stone to go someplace else. Right, we see that all the time. Right, we see Division II coaches who are at a program, they're there for 3 or 4 years, have that success, and use that as a way to get them to the next level, which would be maybe your Power 5 schools, right, or even in the MAC for that matter. You've been there for 12 years. You're in your 13th season. Talk about that for a moment, because I'd imagine there's been moments probably where you've been like, hey, I could maybe take a chance and go someplace else.
Yeah, listen, you're exactly right. It's the nature of this business. It's the business side of it, right? I can tell you this. I was the assistant for 5 years here before I was lucky and fortunate enough to take over. But it's a family here, and I know that sounds very coach talk, and but I've they took a chance on me back in 2014. We didn't have all that much success, and I was on staff, a part of that, and they was willing to give me a chance. And I think I owe a ton of a debt and gratitude to this program, but also the support, right? And I think we're not done growing as a program. And what we've been able to do these last 11 seasons has never been done in this program before, and we continue to rewrite the record books with individual accolades and team success. And I still believe that this program can do more, and that's what excites me, and that's what energizes me. But living in Buffalo, raising my family here in Buffalo, I can't imagine any place better than this right now.
I think one of the key words you mentioned in there was family. And I think when you feel that, you see the results on the field. We just got done talking about, before we came on air, my experience in minor league baseball. Our team just won a championship, one of the best in minor league baseball in the last 30 years. But there was this feeling throughout the course of the season, and it never really wavered, this feeling of family. And we know that culture obviously can drive results, and it has driven results for you at Buffalo. And I find it interesting because I look back at your journey, and I had mentioned it earlier talking about the GLIAC, and I didn't even stop to think about, we were reading up on you a little bit. You were at Mercyhurst for a while, and so you were in the GLIAC for a good stretch of time, and you had great years there. You talk about the family aspect with Buffalo, and obviously, as JT mentioned, you're always looking for opportunities to move up. You're always looking for another great opportunity, but it has to be the right fit, especially if you're a coach, especially if you're going to be the face of that program. That makes things completely different. Was it the family aspect that attracted you to Buffalo? What was it that attracted you to Buffalo, New York?
Originally, just honestly, it was personal life that brought me to this area.
Mm.
This is something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to coach. I lived actually in Central Michigan for a few years, and was able to get my coaching license, and and really just That's where I learned right out of college, like this is what I want to do as a profession. My background's in education, and the more that I learned, the more education I was getting. I really wanted to get to the college level. And I think my first opportunity was here in Buffalo at Canisius on the men's side as a part time. But I kind of looked at it as my foot in the door, and again, just it was more like where I was personally in my life. I just kind of thought I was set up in Buffalo, and an opportunity came here as to be an assistant on the women's side, and then kind of really never looked back. But again, you mentioned I went to Mercyhurst, very small private liberal arts college, where now I'm at a big state university, and I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds, where I think I got what I wanted out of my college experience. But I love the atmosphere of a big university, the support that athletics gets here, the community that rallies around it, and just how we're embedded. It's in our name. Yeah. We are embedded in the community of Buffalo, and it goes just farther than campus, and I love being a part of that.
And I actually have a kind of, it's not an off the wall question, but I am curious because we talk about transfer portal, right? And my only experience of having to use the transfer portal is from video games, playing like the college football video game. I've never actually had to go and convince someone, hey, come to my school before. It's not easy convincing people to come to Central Michigan, by the way. I don't know why that is, but I'm trying. I'm doing my best. But anyways, with Buffalo, when you're pitching some of these athletes, do you talk about the weather at all? Do you talk about the snow, or do you just keep that to the side? Don't even mention that.
So listen, I have no control of that because it's the first thing everybody thinks of, right? When you see Buffalo, it's typically, right, it's Orchard Park and the Bills and dumped on snow. And listen, I'm from Cleveland. I went to school in Erie, Pennsylvania. I lived in Michigan, and I'm here in Buffalo. And it does matter where you live in this city. We're Northtowners, where this campus is. The snow is not any different, right? We have a state-of-the-art indoor facility, so we're not having to play in it. Our entire campus is connected, so even though we're a big school, but once you get to the heart of campus, you actually don't have to go back outside. You can get to every building through walkways and that sort of thing. But the truth of it is yeah, it's going to snow here, right? Our falls are absolutely perfect. We don't have to play in the snow with the field house, and it allows us to play some early spring games as well. But we got skiing close by. Downtown they have the ice rink and the ice bikes and curling, and listen, we live in an area where snow is coming, and we embrace it full head on.
They all embrace it over there. I love it. I love it. The image of people shoveling snow out of the seats in Buffalo for playoff games or whatever it is. That's uniquely Buffalo, New York. It's my favorite part.
Yeah. And the truth is, listen, a lot of our athletes, we're big in Canada, right? So most of the athletes that we're speaking to and their proximity to our campus, we're not what our winners are is nothing new to them.
Yeah.
When you talk about again the dynamics at play in women's college soccer, and there's a lot, right? We've talked, and we had a conversation yesterday with another mid-major school, right? And we talked about specifically, about a school being a destination school, right? There are players around this country that because of the way the transfer portal has been set up and the way recruiting is in 2025. They are going to be maybe going to a school in Division 2 or 3 because they know that might create a window for them to go one day to a Buffalo, and then maybe one day go to Michigan State, right? Or one day go to the next, right? Do you consider Buffalo a destination school for your student athletes to be a part of and be there for their full 4 years? Or do you also see that this is also a pathway for a player to go to the next level if they want to go there?
So my answer to that is, listen, I don't think there's not a lot of players that are probably growing up that dream about going to University of Buffalo, right? I think there's dominant programs in women's soccer that is probably dream schools for most of the athletes, right? But I think what's unique to us and what we've been able to build here over the last 10 plus years, right, is something that players want to be a part of. So the truth is, I don't see us as a stepping stone. Have players come here and try to move on? Yes, we're not immune to that like other programs. But I do believe in how we run this program and in our culture and what we believe in. And I do think players want to be a part of that. And I think that's why they come here originally, because, we've had some really good success against some of the top programs in this country. And, I mentioned it before, I don't think we're done. I think we can. It's just, I really truly believe in what we're doing here. And I think the players buy into that. And, whether maybe I'm naive, but I genuinely believe players are in here for the long haul. And, I look at us signing, 6 players in the last 4 years to professional contracts. We absolutely want to help you play at the next level. And I think we're a program that can put together 4 years of tape that's going to help you keep playing soccer and keep playing at that high level. So, yeah, we want to develop players, absolutely. But I think players want to stick it out here, and I think players want to, the type of athlete that we're speaking to now, I'd say over 80%, if not higher, have pro ambitions, and we've proven that we're a place that we can get you there.
Hey, Shawn, Ryan here. I typically only ask questions to MAC soccer coaches. It just is. Last time we had Lewis Robinson on a couple of weeks ago, I got absolutely roasted by him for being a Chippewa. But last year I got to cover Central Michigan soccer. For some reason, I did every single game except the game that you guys came to Mount Pleasant. Really weird. I don't know why I didn't get to do your guys' game. But my question for you is when I'm, calling the MAC soccer games, especially when it's in conference, you guys kind of all play around the same time. Like, you guys always play Thursday and Sunday, but you guys kind of play at the same time slot. And you guys have to qualify for the MAC tournament, especially down the stretch. Does playing at the same time kind of relieve some of that pressure, as in compared to you need a vital 3 points, but the team ahead of you has already lost? Does that kind of adds maybe a little bit more pressure? But since you guys are playing at the same time almost every single time, does that get rid of that pressure? You guys can kind of just focus on yourselves.
Yeah, what's unique, especially to the game you're talking about, right? We all play at 3:00 on the final day of conference.
Yeah.
Right. And there was a lot. It was, for us, we were playing for a top 2 seed, right, which is a bye. And then there was also, I think there was 4, it might even been more, battling for that final spot. So that last day absolutely mattered. Listen, I think it's as a coach, I just try to be as transparent and I don't try to do the coach talk. I'm honest, right? That certain games mean different things, right? You're playing in a championship game, you feel different, right? So we need to address that and talk about it. So we try to have that same mentality, because for us, we just needed a draw to secure that second spot and have the bye, which is really important for us. Especially, we had one of our key players was trying to get back from injury, so the bye was going to be huge. But I've never approached the game. I don't want our players approaching the game like, oh, we just need a draw, right? Like you suit up to win, and I think we try to keep that mindset, and you try not to really focus on it as much as you can. This day and age with technology and how quick it is, like, we know what's going on, even though we're like, I think we had, for whatever reason, they got offset. There was maybe 10 minutes still to go in our game, 8 minutes to go, and I had knew a result that it didn't matter what happened in ours. We had secured that second spot, which obviously takes the pressure off. But I actually kind of welcome the pressure, because, again, ultimately we want to be playing in that championship game every year and fighting to play in the NCAA tournament. So we need to be able to know, the magnitude of, we talked about pressure on our second MAC game. We went in and had a stat sheet dominant performance against Eastern, and here we are 0-1 in the MAC. And we talked about the pressure of it, and the players acknowledged the pressure of expectation, right? Being picked second, and we're a program that's expected to compete for the championship every year. So I think any chance that we can meet that somewhere else in the regular season, I kind of welcome that. More so, I like the idea of playing around the same time, just because it levels the playing field, and we're all kind of playing on the same base.
Talk about expectations. I think expectations are something that can either set you up for disappointment or it can set you up for something great, depending on how you take it. And I think when you put players in situations where there are high expectations, you can tend to get the most out of them, because they don't want to be the class, they don't want to be the group that kind of teeters off or doesn't do what they're supposed to do. They want to keep the tradition, the winning tradition, alive. Do you find that those expectations are good things, that they continue to spur your athletes in the right direction?
Typically, yeah, I agree with that. And in 11 seasons, right, there was 1 year we didn't qualify for the MAC tournament. It was right after we won the championship in 22. We had 11 player turnover from that group. And I think we only lost 4 games in 23. But it was the first time we never qualified for the MAC tournament, right? And obviously expectations are very high because coming off a championship, expected to win again. And we finished in a 3-way tie for 6. So top 6 qualify. We lost out on tiebreakers, and obviously you got to kind of stomach that. Again, athletes have to take ownership of being the first class and being part of that. Right. One, I after the fact, you can look at that, Meg. I love the fact that finishing in the middle of the pack isn't good enough here anymore, right? Yep. Once upon a time, just fighting to make the MAC tournament would have been good enough, and I love that the standard here has been raised. I can appreciate that, but the spring of the accountability that those players took that were a part of that 23 season, and especially our seniors that had won a championship as freshmen, or they would have won a championship as sophomores, came back as juniors with a disappointment that, again, we only dropped 2 games last year and played in the championship game. And I think that it's players responding to the pressure, the expectation, and resetting the standard. It was such a big thing for us last year, and I give the players all the credit for that.
We talk all the time about the game, and I think it's great that we get to have coaches on from different walks of life and from different universities, different parts of the country. We've talked to Wake Forest and North Carolina State University, right? We had a chance to talk yesterday with Milwaukee Panthers, right, in the Horizon League. We're talking with you today, obviously from Buffalo, and tomorrow we're talking with Ball State's head coach. And you're taking on Ball State tomorrow night at 6 p.m. in Buffalo. And obviously don't want to get into all that, but it's a cool thing that we actually get to have a chance to talk with the home coach and then the away coach tomorrow. We talk about the matchups, and we talk about like these games. This is a conference game tomorrow, right? You're playing in a conference game, and right now these games matter more than what happened in the preseason, right? That's your way of getting ready for these games. In order for you to get to the top of the table, you have to go through a Ball State tomorrow at home, especially at home, where you guys have been very dominant. Talk about what you have to do or what you're trying to do at home this season to beat a team just like Ball State here tomorrow night.
Yeah, this conference, there's quite a few coaches that have been around a while. So you start to, we obviously all have habits, and you start to get an idea of what to expect. But then you also have this where we've got a new coach coming in. I'm not all that familiar with him, but obviously he's done extremely well in this profession, and I think everywhere he's gone, he's had success, and I have no doubt he's going to do the same thing here at Ball State. I think for us, we look at watching the tape of them. They have arguably one of the most dynamic individuals in this conference, and every time I watch them play and I see her on the ball, I'll be honest, that makes me nervous. So, anytime you have a special player like that, your team's always going to have a chance. I think they're going to be very well organized. And again, it's just, I love the challenges. Again, we love playing here at home. I think part of it, I think people hate coming to Buffalo, whatever it is, we embrace it. We take it on. But yeah, new coaches come in and especially from his background and his experience, I think it's going to be a very tough matchup, like every game is. It doesn't matter if you're playing the team that finished 12th the year before. This conference, there's that margin from 1st to 12th or 13 now with UMass is very, very fine.
I have to ask this question because obviously last year in league play you were 5-1-5. How much do you hate ties?
So not too long ago, right? We as a coaching, we pretty unanimously got rid of overtime, right? Which again, try to line up, and more of it was like you're playing 2 games on the weekend. If both games go to overtime, are we really putting our players in the best environment? And since that rule has come into place, I think we have double-digit ties in 2 seasons, and part of me is like, do I regret that decision being part of the vote to push that in the way that we did? Because I hate them. To answer your question flat out, I hate them. It's frustrating. It's the game that we play, right, at every level. It's a massive part of it. But and for whatever reason, it just seems we seem to be doing a little bit more these last couple of years.
I was going to say, even going back to 2023, right, when the year you said you missed the tournament for the first time, right, was back in 23. I mean, you had 6 ties that season.
Yeah. So I think we had 13 ties in the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets old quick.
All right. So I know you have one more question.
Go ahead.
And get to that one.
Go
I'll
ahead.
have in mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask this one really quickly. You mentioned how well you guys have done at home. That was something that I certainly saw 69, 15, and 14 coming into the year at home. You've kind of created this atmosphere where for opposing teams, I wouldn't want to go on the road and face you guys. You have this, you have this reputation now of at least inside of your own confines, you've done extremely good. How much fun is it that you've kind of established this place that it's really hard to go on the road and face Buffalo? Because you guys have won a lot there.
Yeah, listen, take a lot of pride in that. We play in a 20,000 seat football stadium, right? So with a track around it, and you can sit here and talk about all the things that are not the purest soccer form of playing in a football stadium and the lines that go on. But we look at it a different way, right? We play our Thursday games at night under the lights, right? We get a good crowd because we do a 6 o'clock kickoff, so you get the youth teams coming out with their parents. We just opened up our brand new video board that plays. So we do an international walkout that our media department put together an unreal hype up video. We have the youth players, the mascots walking out with the team. The game is playing on our video board. You score a goal, go watch yourself. Watch the instant replay on there. We got a lot of really cool bells and whistles because we play in a football stadium. So we take full advantage of that. And then again, obviously until UMass joined this year, we were also the easternmost school in our conference. And again, some of the travel for some of those schools isn't ideal. So we while we want to be gracious hosts, maybe not so much on the field,
Right. Understandably so.
Nothing wrong with that at all. We ask this of coaches a lot, and before I get to our toughest question of the morning, if you had to describe this team, your current team, which is right now overall is 5-2-1, you're 1-1 in the conference. If you could define this team in a few words, what would it be?
This is the most talented team we've had top to bottom. But with that comes, it's not issues, but you're trying to build chemistry and trying to just get that cohesiveness as a group. Because we have really good players that are still kind of the outside looking in right now. So you're just and 9 freshmen plus a transfer, that's 10 new faces. I think honestly, as a coach, I wish we were a little bit farther along at this point of the season in the conference, and I think it's just taken us a little bit longer to find that. But coming off the back of Sunday game, which was probably arguably our most complete performance, we're a talented group that is once this group really comes together as a team, I'm excited and think we can compete with anybody.
You had mentioned, obviously, Cleveland is where you were born and raised, and spent most of your life, it seems like, here in the Midwest or East Coast, right? With obviously in Buffalo, Northeast.
Great Lakes. Great Lakes. Always
right?
Living around the Great Lakes.
Right.
Yeah.
So aside from the snow and the unpredictability of the weather in the Great Lakes region, there's a lot of great places for food, to go grab food. And so typically we ask coaches, like, hey, where's that place in town when you get off the bus? But since you've been to a good chunk of the Midwest and the Great Lakes region, is there a restaurant? Is there a place that when you're in that town here in the Midwest, Great Lakes area, that you have to go to? You've got to go grab a bite to eat. And what would it be?
I love anytime I'm back in Cleveland, going to Barrio. Good Mexican taco place. I remember we went back there a few years ago, my wife and I, for a wedding, and we went twice. We went to brunch before the wedding, and then in between the wedding and reception, I think we went with friends to get a little more food and some cocktails before the reception. But I would say that's probably like our go-to place in downtown Cleveland. Love getting us some Barrio every time we're in town.
It looks like they have a menu
That's
that you
perfect.
can like cross off like your order on. Is that right?
Yeah. So unfortunately, the older I get here, I have more dietary restrictions. So anytime I have a lot more say in what I order, I tend to notice I like those places more. Um, so I think that's probably one of the intriguing things about that. And my wife will kill me for saying this, but she's a big fan of the margaritas. So can't go wrong there.
You can't. Hey, same here.
Uh,
I'm all
well,
for it.
Shawn, we too love the Mexican food as well, and I can't have margaritas either. So, but what I was going to say is this: we want to say thank you for stopping by here on this Wednesday morning. Again, great success, the winningest head coach in program history at Buffalo and the Bulls. We appreciate you stopping by. You guys take on Ball State tomorrow night at 6 p.m. out at your home stadium, and we wish you and your team much success here the rest of the way.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you
As well.
Yes, sir.
And again, much success the rest of the way. And we look forward to maybe having you back on here in the future as well.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Shawn. Coming up here on the other side of this break, we will dive into the week